Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life podcast. I hope everybody's buckled up. They got their seatbelts in, they're strapped in, and they're ready for a wild ride. We have an incredible show for you today. The one and only Hawk, as I like to call him. He is a leader, mentor, author, musician, social worker, amazing human being. He's been on the show before. You guys know him. You've probably checked out his own channel. He's got lots of incredible content there, and I would definitely push people that way so that you can see and hear more about him. However, today is a pretty special day for him. He's got a brand new book coming out that we're going to get into. We're going to learn a little bit more about him, about the book, and about what's going on in the content of that book, the state of the world. And before I just keep going on and on about how great you are, Hawk, maybe I should throw it over to you for a moment to flesh out any background you want to give us here.
Well, I wear many hats. One of them is I'm a monk, and actually I have my 50th anniversary in 3 days. And that has been for someone who I really resonate with. Hey, Lonnie, I really resonate with the female energy, with women. My favorite creature. So taking that step back 5 years ago, that was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. But it's also brought me many beautiful moments and so many insightful conversations. When you step away from the strongest urge that we as human beings have, and you put that aside, that's not on the table. That leads to so many, But yes, thank you for the beautiful introduction, George. I remember our conversation fondly. That was in winter, and I was walking around, snow falling in my neck, and and walking my dog. I love talking with people with insight and people who are willing to talk about the difficult stuff, because we need to talk about it.
Yeah, it's, if we just stay there for a moment, it seems to me that with age sort of comes the ability to not have this incredible fervor to chase around women on some level. Maybe that's you know, I think it was Marcus Aurelius who talked about sometimes the idea of being a man is just, it's overwhelming, and that sometimes all you can think about is women. When I think of younger guys, I think a younger version of myself, like that dominated such a huge part of my life. Like I was unable to really focus on business or anything else because I just thought how beautiful women were, and like, God, what can I do to make these women like me more? But maybe you could speak to the idea of how it's changed, how getting older and seeing the world through the lens of a monk, or the lens of an older gentleman who is finally clear on his process. Like it's happening to me. I'm coming up on 50, but I am beginning to see the world differently, and things are falling away. Maybe it's my age, but maybe you could speak to that as someone who's gone through that process, and how you think different, and how you act in the world different.
Well, one of the lights of my life, one of my, I don't want to call it idols, but one of my, those who I like to use as a measuring person, so to speak, is Jesus. And my impression of Jesus, of his life, and what I found, which when I started reading the Bible back 54 years ago or something, was that he met people. He didn't meet a leper, he met a person. He didn't meet a prostitute, he met a person. And he connected on the level. He didn't say that, oh, I'm holier than thou, and I know what's right for you, and I'm going to come here and heal you. And he just connected. And I think that is part of what being a monk has made even more clearly in my life, that we are all both physical and spiritual beings on a journey, and we can connect on many levels. but it's so crucial that we dare to see beneath the surface, to truly look beyond the color or skin, our gender, all of these outer characteristics, and to truly connect heart to heart with the person. And that stems from, of course, just like you're saying, I've also made my mistakes. I've lived a life, and when I was young, I did pretty much what
You're
you
right.
talked about. So it, but I don't regret anything. I just am happy that I had the chance to better myself.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's an incredible journey that we've been on in our lives, and if we take time to realize that it is in fact a journey, I think we can really get a lot of work done and figure out how to better navigate the relationships in our life. It kind of brings us to the topic of today about first off, the incredible Lonnie Ray. The Rattled Awake series is just this movement. It's taken on a life of its own, and it has found incredible authors, and it has inspired so many people. It's sort of, I think the Rattled Awake movement today is what the Chicken Soup for the Soul was, so many years ago. And I can't say enough about all the authors and Lonnie Ray. And I've had a part in the series a while back, and I'm so honored to get to be part of this family. And it feels like every edition comes out, it gets better, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is better one. This is a better one. Look at this
Yeah.
person. And so it's such a cool thing, and I just want to point people to him. How maybe we can start at the beginning. How was it that Rattled Awake found you?
Well, I was on LinkedIn, as many of my
Right?
connections. Um, I don't remember if it was through someone that Lonnie worked with, or it was the other way around. Please started talking about writing books. It must be a year, half ago. By the way, Lonnie has worked with Mark Hansen, so
Right.
yeah, it's a good comparison.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and but we started talking, and then when she released not this book, but the last one, the bully book, I was a part of that, um, and I truly loved the process. For me, I'm a verbal man,
Right.
and when I write something, I'm not very fond of. Can't use more than this and that many words, because everything has to be explained and blah blah blah, all that. But then I had to set borders for myself. Hey there, Tanya. I had to set borders for myself, and that was because then you have to go into really, okay, what is the important subject that you want to share. And in Bullied, I wrote it as a social worker who's been a consultant for hi Bree, lots of friends coming in from the Battle
Right?
of Wake 11 call. Uh, I wrote it as a social worker who has been sort of consultant for a couple of parents who lost custody of their children. So I've been in so many meetings with child welfare in Sweden, and I've seen it. I've seen how much they have hurt both the parents and the children.
Yep.
And that really struck me. So I wrote about why aren't they more flexible? Why don't they see that they may have taken a wrong step early in the process? Why don't they have the cognitive flexibility to see that, okay, we may have been wrong, and to investigate that? So there was a chapter of the two parents, Trine and Vidar, who are Norwegian, by the way.
Mhm.
They wrote about a letter to their kids, because both of them have some issues. They may not be alive when their children are old enough to get in touch with them. They haven't seen them for 4.5 years. And then I wrote like the professional crying. At times when I was writing that chapter, I was crying like you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe it, because I haven't always been a monk. I have 3 kids of my own, and very soon, in a week or so, 2
Nice.
granddaughters. And it really touched me, to feel that, and to have to be professional, and yeah. But then we got the Rattle Awake book, and Lonnie said that she was going to be about mental health, and mental health has sort of been my life for. Well, I started working in institutions when I was 17. I have also been in institutions. I have been admitted to psychiatric wards, and I've used, when people talk about antipsychotics, antidepressants, and whatnot, I've used them. I know what damage they did to me, and I also know that when my life started to that was a Rattle Awake moment. When I was, it was suggested I should use an early SSRI when I was 27, 26, something like that. That threw me off. That it truly, it just, it made me sick. It was like, felt like they were shooting my brain chemistry with a shotgun, and I developed hypoglycemia, with extreme low blood sugar. Remember one time I was going to Oslo with the woman who became my wife, and we were gonna go to a specific station. And when we came to the central station, I said, I have to go. I have to go out. I need to go and to the kiosk, buy something to eat. And that was because my blood sugar at the time was so low that I had to have a chocolate to get up again. So I managed to quit those pills and get rid of the problems with the help of, how do you pronounce that? Homeopath?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who specialize in exactly problems like this. People who had used the SSRIs, antidepressants, and developed hypoglycemia. So me and Beate, who's the name of my ex-wife, we went on a diet. And that was a strict diet, really. And we had to use a lot of different supplements, among them one that I started using now as well, chromium, because I love sugar, and I know it's not very good for me.
Right.
So to get down on that, and we managed to clear it up, but because she supported me, I was retested by the homeopath, and the problem was gone. But it was a tough process, really, and that is, in the Rattle Awake, the mental health edition, like it's there are a lot of strong stories.
Yep.
There are people like Seamus, who shares his path from being a Catholic priest, a role that he was forced into, actually, by his family. It was not his wish, and how many problems that caused. We have a mother and son who found their tribe in the nerd community, NerdCon, I believe it was called. So the chapters from both of them. We have a 12-step process. You know, taking the Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step
Yep.
process, and transporting it into the life of people who doesn't have addiction problems. You know, how can you use the 12 steps? That's Rob's chapter. Beautiful. We have Dante, who's a young entrepreneur, and he shares about how his grandma inspired him. And that I could continue, but you should read the book. Whoever is listening, watching this, you gotta read the book, because nerdcore party come. Yes, thank you, Tanya. And that story resonated with me because I was a true nerd. I mean, I was a tech kid, totally, and I was a part of the growing nerd movement in Norway. So I've been a part of the largest LAN party in Norway. I've seen all of this. So it's I can so resonate with what Tanya and her son wrote. They have separate chapters. Then you got Bree, and I'm sorry, I could go on because we have such a
Yeah.
specter of people. They come. You have a healer who's talks about how she healed herself from fibromyalgia, which
Mm.
in Western medicine, that's you can't cure it. You can't cure it. It's not possible. And yeah, I could, as I said, I could go on and on. I actually, because the stories of Rattle Awake 11, they all of them touch me in a special way. So I put up this website where we can have resources and stuff. So it's Romeo Alpha 11.info,
Oh,
and
nice.
there are then we can share, because we also got a rocker who's joined who had a song about the suicide of one of his band members. Yeah, it's a book that is on so many levels. So
It blows me away the state of mental health in the world today, and I'm not
mm,
sure if it's because of where I'm at in my life and I can see it all, or if just every one of us have been touched by a suicide or a mental health condition, or maybe have had suicidal thoughts ourselves. Like the state of the world, it seems to me is in sort of a rattled awake moments of its own. Like we're coming to this term and looking around and being like, what the hell is wrong with us? Like, what is
mm,
going on here? My
mm.
niece died of fentanyl not too long ago, and it just rattled our whole family. And my story is not, it's not by any means alone. Every one of us knows someone who's struggling and suffering. And in that suffering, it feels as if it's the one thing that brings us together. But Hawk, what is going on in the state of the world where we're just getting to this moment where it seems like people are really either waking up and helping people or still going through their trauma? Has it always been this way, or what do you think is going on right now?
I think it's gotten worse.
Mm,
I see in my little country, Norway,
okay.
uh, there was an increase of suicides from 2022 to 2023 of 70 people.
Wow.
And yeah, and my country is a rich country. We have the resources to help
Right.
people. But what is happening is they're moving away from compassion and care to just drug them. It's easier for the system to give a person, a patient, a shot in the thigh with an antipsychotic than to have them in an institution. And that is a trend we've seen. And then at the same time, we see that in Norway we had the medicine free movement, which I was a part of. As I was the the head of a couple of NGOs.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that there was places where you could come and not even be offered the option of pills because you didn't want them yourself. You could work through your stuff, but that is much because I think of the greed of big pharma. It is being sabotaged. I think it was said that Einstein, he was supposed to have said that the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different outcome. As far as I know, he never said that, but at least it's not registered. But I think that's pretty. It's smart because aren't we, when we see that the way we give medicines to people who have a problem, it doesn't help them at all. I mean, it can help initially. It can help, for instance, say that if
Okay.
you are totally off your rockers and you haven't slept for a couple of weeks and you're feeling totally frazzled, okay, maybe you need something to calm down in a good environment, and you need to sleep. You need to land. But you can have the same outward expression if you're in a spiritual crisis. Say that you're in a Kundalini awakening. I've gone through some of those myself, and out on the outside it looks scary as hell. Really.
Yeah.
But on the inside it's a form of ecstasy and connectedness, and it is magic. It's like seeing everything clearly, and you look through the back of your head and you experience music is amazing, and everything is so strong. And of course, and you also have some like I ran up a mountain. It was like was in Norway, and I ran all the way up, and I sat down and I just look at the nature. Oh, Jesus, it's so beautiful. And I just felt the nature all over, the connectedness. It was really, really something special. But if a psychiatrist had seen me at the time, he or he would have said, okay, this guy is totally psychotic. We've got to get an ambulance, get him into a psychiatric ward, have him locked down, give him something to dampen him. And that is because they wouldn't have bothered to ask me the question, what are you going through now? Because I was lucid. I could talk. I could say that, I am experiencing the world in a manner that's totally different. And I haven't used any drugs, but I'm high as a kite. But I'm high on life. I'm high on the experience. And I don't really need a drug to calm down, because just let me run, let me do my thing, let me sing, let me write songs, let me be here in this beautiful moment. And that is what I need. So yeah, but to get back to your question, I think you should always follow the money. And big pharma is big pharma. It is a system that is self-sustainable because they get to create a diagnosis that they give us. And then they get to come up with, thank you, Tony, they get to come up with the cure. So they have both sides. And then they say, and this is an important point, let's say that you had what they call a psychotic break. You get the diagnosis of you're schizophrenic, for instance, or paranoid schizophrenic, or whatever. often they say then that you have a chemical imbalance. Your dopamine is out of proportion with the other serotonin, noradrenaline, and the other neurotransmitters. So you have to be on medication for the rest of your life. And that is flawed.
Yep.
That's part of what I write about in my chapter, that this has been, you can't prove a hypothesis, but
Right.
you can say that this is not valid. And it has been invalidated. And that, I think, is scary, because we do know, it's not as if and this is important, George. I'm
Yep.
not saying cut out your pills, throw them out the window, and because that is not something you should do on your own. It is something you need to do along with someone who knows what you're going through, who can help you taper gradually, because it's a tough process, especially if you used it for some time. So you need to but I use this book in my chapter. Let's see if I can get it through now.
There it goes. Mhm.
Yeah, it's a book by a Danish psychologist and psychiatrist called Anders Sørensen, and he was met by many people. Came to him as a psychologist and said that I'm not comfortable using drugs, the psych drugs, psychopharmaca, and so I want to get help to taper down and to quit. So he started off making some free resources, and he was interviewed by Newsweek, among other things, and then he wrote a book, and it's one of the few books that I read that are actually peer reviewed. Thank you. It is peer reviewed, and it's about how to taper in a good way. Because what many people forget is that when part of this, let's call it side effect of tapering or cutting out drugs, is that you can get the same symptoms that you were originally given the drugs for. When you cut out an antidepressant, part of the quite common effects is that you experience depression. But it is also, like we talked about, suicide. Many of the SSRI, for instance, they come with a black box warning.
Yeah.
They increase the chances of suicidal ideation and actions the first 14 to 3 weeks that you use them. And I think I'd rather live my life being a bit on a roller coaster and to experience life than to go through it like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I work with kids in the afternoon, and I was talking to a young lady, and we were having a drawing contest, and she gave me this really cool response. After everybody finished, she says, "Who won?" And I'm like, "Well, a lot of people won for lots of different reasons." And she goes, "No, there's winners and losers, George. Some people have to
Mm.
win and some people have to lose." I was so
Mm.
excited because it's such a cool answer for a kid to give me. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I want all the kids to be awesome, but she's right. Like, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. The same way when you go through life, there has to be ups and there has to be downs. Like, you can't take in that beautiful vista from the top of the mountain if you haven't been down in the low in the valleys. Like, those things go together, and it's interesting that on some level, I think society tries to tell us you don't need to have lows. You can just be high all the time. Like, that's not true. That causes its own set of problems when we try to live that way. Like, we're surrounded by this society that tells us to be happy all the time, or that things are good, but that they're not good. And it's
Mm.
interesting. In your book, in the article, you had mentioned that something that really stood out to me is that being poor is a taboo, and that,
Hmm.
so a question I wanted to pull on there is, what do you think it would take for society to begin addressing this issue openly?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I have done a little work on that myself. I'm also a politician in Norway, and so I'm helping create a new political party.
Nice.
And in our party program, I've had one of the things my close through, it's really close to me, is talking about how we need to look into when a person says that they have some mental issues, we need to clear up their finances,
Yeah.
because during the depression, for instance, people just jumped from skyscrapers. They
Yep.
went, they saw that because they couldn't take care of the families,
Yep.
and that is, we tend to forget that 70%, I believe, of suicides are men, and we have often the role, even though our society is changing in many ways, which is good. People are getting to be more. You don't have to, if you're a CEO, you don't have to be a man, for instance.
Yeah.
But still, it's often that men take this responsibility. I am the breadwinner. I'm the one who has to provide for my family. And if something happens to your ability to provide, then that can be a blow that just makes you say, okay, I can't live with this anymore.
Yep.
We've seen it. There are so much, so many statistical reports saying that this is a huge problem. That the people, I believe it was a Swedish study that showed that of those who had been contacted by something called Kronofogden, which is like a governmental institution that says, okay, you owe money, you got to pay it back, or we'll take your house, your car, or whatever. 40% of those had attempted suicide, and it's just the same in my country. I've seen some reports regarding this. So this is something we need to address. We need to be able to talk about it openly. That if, let's say that I, as a therapist, somebody says, I want to talk with you. If they say that, okay, I'm feeling low and all of that, I also need to ask him, okay, how do you live? Well, I have a one-room apartment and live on my own, and I need to go into their life in order to see, are there any things that need to be cleared up before we can work therapeutically?
Yep.
Because if you don't have the, and this is something I learned from my mother, who was a psychologist. I was blessed enough. I worked with her first 10 years of my working life. She was my boss. And then I also got to, because I referred clients to her, and a few times I was allowed to sit in on the therapy. And that was where she started. She said, okay, we need to, where are you? Where do you live? Do you have kids? She evaluated all of these factors before she went into anything therapeutic at all. Because if you don't know where tomorrow's dinner is coming from, or whether you can pay your landlord, how can you sit down and talk about, oh yes, I'm feeling kind of sad, and you can't go into therapeutic processes if they are some concern with what is happening here.
Yep.
And we truly need to recognize that in mental health, that this is a huge issue, and it's so easy to do something about it. That is one of the things that really gnaws on me. Like in my country, we have companies who are expert at getting uh, making sure that the various companies, your bills are paid. You know, you go to and you get your credit score goes down, then you can't get a loan and everything. And those companies, if they were told you are not allowed to charge the enormous rates that you're charging, if they were told that, okay, you have to offer options for people to get out of that. If the Norwegian government has said, okay, we need to control this because these companies, they are making billions. And I really, I do have quite a few bills there myself. I can't get a loan.
Yeah.
No way. So I don't have, and I take full responsibility for my finances. That I made some bad choices, but I would like to fix it. I'm doing it slowly, but I know that I can't, for instance, get a loan to buy a new car if I needed that, or a used car I would be, or that is not part of the package for me. And there are so many of us, and when you try to talk with our system, it's often like, okay, you have to lie in the bed that you made up yourself. Okay, I think we need to see that people needs to be met with compassion. I think we need, as social workers working with people who are in debt or who are on welfare or whatever, they need to be aware of these things. Because, if you go, like I was living in my car, the weekend was coming, I didn't have a dime. Fortunately, I had food for my dog. I didn't have any food for myself. And I got an appointment with social services, and I said, okay, this is the situation. And they said, yeah, okay, you have to bring in all your bills and blah, blah, all of that. Okay, and I said, yeah, great. Here you got access to all my accounts. You can see what I have. And so that was on Thursday. On Friday, I came back and said, no, you can't get anything. And I said, okay, why? Well, among the bills that you presented, the receipts and bills, you had paid your student loan. And I was, okay, well, what does that have to do with my current situation? Well, sorry, can't get anything. And I was like, okay, maybe I should tell you that that was one of the bills I'd pushed. I hadn't paid the student loan, so that was flawed information. She hadn't done her due diligence. But still, I remember that, I was, okay, well, I'll manage on my own, no problem. And I did. I'm still here, but
Yeah.
small things like that can be enough for people to just, okay, I give up. I will make that horrible decision, because it truly is. You make the horrible decision to, okay, no, it's enough. I'll just finish.
Yeah. It's, I remember in 2008 when we had the financial crisis over here. I think the one thing that's happening, at least in the United States, and I think it's happening around the world when you see the protests, whether it's the yellow vests in France or the uprisings in the Middle East, or maybe what's going on in all over the world is that on some level, the governments always tend to bail out corporations. Like they have no problem, you know, funding subsidies or bailing out the richest people or bailing out the corporations. We even have slogans like too big to fail. But what about
Mm.
the people that make up those corporations? What about the people that have given everything and there's no bailout for them? Like I can't. I think that that is a big part of why we see this mental crisis throughout the world right now. Is that people around the world have had enough? Like the level of corruption that is just coursing through the veins of government is it's got to go. And you know, it happens from time to time. And I think people are scared at the top. I think that they have figured out, okay, we have nowhere to turn. And I'm not saying everybody at the top is corrupt, but the institution itself doesn't seem to be working for everybody. And when that happens, you know, if history is the best predictor of future behavior, like we're
Mm.
in for some turbulent times.
Oh yes. But I fully agree, George.
Yeah.
We are on a precipice. We are on
Right.
a very thin line
Yep.
between something that can be lead to a third world war, or
Right.
yeah, we are really this is it's a perilous time, and that comes from, among other things. Yeah, what about us, the people?
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, that is because people, they have no belief in politicians anymore. They
Yeah.
don't trust politicians. Politicians. So I if we keep giving away our power, then the past equals the future. Beautifully said, Ronnie. Uh,
Oh, I lost you right there for a minute, Hawk. But yeah, I'll just pull on this thread. I think he'll be back in it just shortly here. But I agree with you, Lonnie, 100%. I see it
yeah,
happening. And oh, he's back. There you go.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Moving around the Wi-Fi box because it's on the cell network. Um, yeah, I'm really afraid, because here's learning from the past can really change the future. We
Yep.
gotta learn from the past in order to find new ways to handle things. If we forget our past, if we forget what happened in Germany pre-World War II and also pre-World War One,
Yeah.
the shot in Sarajevo, if we forget these things, then it's really, it's perilous, and we need to. And now speaking as a politician, I need to be able to talk with people and say that, okay, but yeah, you can talk about all the U.S. president or whatever. That's not just where I am at. I am more concerned with you.
Yeah.
What do you see as a solution? What are the causes that you are into? And what brought you there? What is your history? It's just like I'm talking about in the book chapter about the power threat meaning
Mm.
framework, because I think that's beautiful. It's going from diagnosis into what really happened with you, what happened in your life. And I think as politicians, we need to have the talks with people, because it's so easy to sit there and, oh yeah, but life, or we don't talk about one single case. We are working on politics, and
Right.
politics is there and you are there.
Yeah.
Politics is made up of single individuals, and we need to make some changes. And I sense that we are on a path that can diverge in different directions. One of them is very bleak,
Yeah.
with wars and everything. The other one is moving towards cohesion, community, and yeah, love. Love is the antidote, as my chapter is titled.
Yeah, it's a great title. I think it speaks to the path that we could be on, and and the opposite of division is unity. And it's amazing to me. I do think that this whole Rattled Awake movement, your chapter, everything Lonnie's doing, and Bree and Tanya and Sithari, like everybody is creating their own stories for like-minded people to find and investigate and realize the stories that you are writing and I am writing and everybody's writing are the story that everybody else is living. Like we're so similar in so many ways, and we're so close to coming together and finding a solution to find a better path forward for all of us. Like I see the sunrise on some level. Like when I look
Mm.
out there, I'm like, oh, there may be some storm clouds, but I do believe that there is a sunrise among us. It's sort
Oh
of it
yes,
must be similar. Yeah.
yeah, and that is, I do meet a lot of people, and in my job, I met some very dark people.
Yeah, boy.
In lack of a better
Yeah.
expression, people who are within the dark triangle, Machiavellian, narcissistic, and sociopathic, and I think, thank you, for president. No, and I, but this, your point is so important, because when I was working with people who were like that, and I and like many other in my healer, UHG thing, some people say, oh, there's only love, everybody has something good within them. Oh, it's Carolyn. Okay, then I know you are. Thank you, Carolyn. Oh, she's beautiful. You should read a chapter as well. Going through the thing with Shunt and everything. It's like, wow. Yeah. Um, but yeah, people say that, okay, all we need to do is we need to sit down in lotus, and then we meditate on the beauty of the world, and we set our intentions, and everything will be fine. And
Maybe not everything.
well, I think we need those people.
Yeah.
We need the monks who sit in India and who sit in Nepal and Tibet. We really need them. They are like lighthouses. But that doesn't mean that it's the right path for you, George.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it was the right. I could have moved to Tibet, for instance, or to India, or whatever, and been a monk there, and it would be probably much easier because they're more used to monks. But that wasn't the right for me. If I see something that happens, if I see injustice, if I see someone who's taking advantage of another person, then I act. I do, and that has been my life. I'm a warrior, and so I act. And then sometimes I make mistakes, and then I have to go and say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the situation just the way it was, or whatever, and I learn from that and move on. But we need both the peaceful warriors and the ones who are willing to go out and defend other people. We need both, because otherwise, who's gonna fight the child traffickers? Who's gonna say that, okay, you can't abuse the elderly, for instance? We need the whole spectrum, and it wouldn't work for me just to sit in a lotus and be holier than thing. It doesn't work, and I need to act, and that has been my life. Oh yes, here comes action alleviates anxiety.
Yeah.
And that is so true. Because I've talked about this with a lot of people, And often people are like, but I was afraid to act. Okay, but do something. I mean, if it's, is it, let's say that you see somebody getting beat up on the street, at least put up your cell phone and document and call 911 in the States and 112 in Norway. Be there, or be there as a bystander, and make sure that you help fix whatever problem arises from that beating up. Get involved. Don't be one of those, Lonnie talks about 75% or something of people who see bullying, they become bullies themselves, either by active participation or simply, okay, that's what it is. And I think that is kind of scary. We need people to stand up both for themselves and for others.
Yeah. It brings to mind a sort of an interesting question, at least in my mind, and it is that, and I'm curious to get your opinion. You are a very creative person. You have found a lot of different outlets in order to create different versions of yourself, be it music or writing, or there's a myriad of things that you do. But it seems to me that a lot of great art comes from pain. A lot of great art comes from real struggle, and we see that in symbols, symbolism throughout the past, and imagery and language. On some level, is it too much to think that the pain we're going through, sometimes suicidal ideation, is necessary for us to become the best versions of ourselves, to really create something beautiful? You need to have that level of suffering.
Yeah. Next question. No, that's no. You don't have to go through a lot of pain, because pain is a certainty. Suffering is optional. So it all depends. If you choose it, you can go into something that was just a tiny thing, and you can go in and say, he looked at me in a way that I didn't appreciate. And then you can use that emotion to create frisson in your system, and then create art from there. I don't, but what you're talking about, if you, I link to my website surroundtherapy.com in the book. There's this guy called Dabowski, who is a Polish, I believe it's a psychiatrist, and he wrote these amazingly complex books. I tried reading them, and it was brilliant. He talked about the stages that you have to go through in order to get to be lifted in a spiritual way, to find enlightenment and awakening. So he created this, and I recommend reading at least Wikipedia entry about that guy. That's linked from the site. And here comes an important point from Carolyn. It's about conditioning. When you choose not to act, it's because we are often, I know this is especially prevalent in the US. If you go in and protect someone in a situation, then you may be sued. I mean, and I don't know, I've done some martial arts myself. I have, by choice, I don't have a single belt, because if I had a belt, and since I walk in the darkest streets of cities and stuff. If I had interfered in such an altercation and one of them got hurt, then I would be considered a weapon.
Mm.
So if I was sued, then would be make the and that it doesn't make sense. There are so many ways you can help with the situation.
Yeah.
So many, and that comes whether the bully is an institution like I wrote about in Bullied, or and also in Rattle Awake 11,
Yeah.
where Big Pharma is a bully, and psychiatry, part of psychiatry,
Mm.
or it's a person. There are so many ways you can support, and we all have our gifts, our star powers, as one of my own personal favorites says. She's also quoted in the book. We all have something that we can do to help,
Right.
and that is really necessary. Or basketball, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the work environment is a place that has become a hostile work environment. And I think it echoes society, when we see each other as less than human, and when we see each other as numbers to be
Mm.
productive, we really strip the humanity out of the relationships. But you know what? I think Rattled Awake 11. I have. You were gracious enough to send me your chapter, and I got to like look at it a little bit. And I'm gonna be buying the book here real shortly, probably as soon as I get off of here. I can't wait to check out everybody's stories.
Mm.
It never ceases to amaze me the amount of people, Lonnie, that gravitate towards this idea, yourself, and so many people that have found the courage to write about their stories. And it never ceases to amaze me how viral all these books go. It seems like
Mm.
every Rattled Awake is like, boom, international bestseller, boom, international bestseller. It's
Yeah,
just a testament to people's authenticity and the power that everyone's finding that. It's amazing to me.
it's beautiful, and all the way since we met, we have the way Lonnie has designed us is that we have a Zoom meeting over a weekend. And some of us had already written our chapter, others hadn't started, and then we work together, and we collaborate, and then we also do the same after the book has been launched. So I'm supporting,
Yeah.
Seamus's post, and Lonnie's post, and Carolyn's
Yeah.
post, and Tanya's post, and we all work together. But also that it seems that the whole community of Rattle Awake
Yep.
authors, they really, a new book has come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they also know, that it's important, for instance, to have reviews on Amazon.
Yep.
Really, that brings you up on the algorithm. So they know that, okay, I gotta add in a review.
Yep.
And it's such a sweet collaboration. It's I love it, and I wish. Here's a suggestion on it. We should have a Rattle Awake party with all the co-authors and authors, and that would be like, yeah,
Right.
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
cool.
That would be amazing. I can already see you know, in 5 year, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, it's going to be such a huge group of people that have participated in this that it's really more of a movement than it is, a story. But it's mind blowing to me. But you know what though, I wanted to give, as we're getting to land the plane here. I know that you have written a lot before and you have been part of lots of other creative endeavors. Maybe you could just kind of end off on telling us what was it about this particular project that seemed different to you? Was it the mental health aspect? Was it the camaraderie? The did you learn something about you? Like, what was it about this particular Rattled Awake 11 that really felt different to you?
Hmm. One thing is I wanted to work with Lonnie again.
Right.
That was definitely one of the reasons. It was because I am an empathic healer, and I when I'm at my most sensitive, I feel the pain of the world. I truly, and it comes channeled through people I meet, or a lot of different stuff and signs that I see, and so I wanted to contribute with what little I can, and to share some experiences, and also most especially to share hope. Because I worked in social work for 22 years. I worked with people that most other people, they don't even want to look at them. You know,
Right.
people with drug addiction, people who sit paraplegic in a white wheelchair, people on the autism spectrum, Down syndrome, people who have cerebral palsy, you know, all of the sort of those who are outside of society. That has always been my crowd. But I have never given up on a client, or someone who I call a customer, client, whatever. I've never given up. I've always gone in when I met those people. I've gone and said, okay, if I can improve your life 1% today, if I then will do it, and then tomorrow can repeat it, and the day after you can repeat it, because I don't think that you are lost. I don't think that you are beyond salvation. I don't believe that your situation can't be changed for the better. What you need is to start feeling that you are also important, and you are. And if you don't believe that, at least take my word for it, that you are important to me.
Yeah, yeah.
There we're back again.
Back again.
uh, yeah, I worked with people who were in the throes of committing suicide, and that was what they wanted to do. And to be a part of that process, going from the lowest, absolute lowest that you can be at, to where they can say that, okay, I'm not so bad after all. I got through it. And I came out and I was much stronger than I was before.
Mm.
That has been a blessing, and that is, yeah, when I think of all the kids and youth and adults I work with, I'm so blessed. I've been so blessed with all the meetings, and it happens I meet them, you know, on the street or somewhere in the mall. Yeah, can you wait 1 minute?
All right. I I can't recommend enough people go and check out the book. You know, we sort of danced around the fire a little bit. We kind of got into the peripheral of it, but there's so much meat on there, and I really want people to go and check it out. I think you'll be inspired and moved, and there's so many cool techniques that people have found and discovered that have made their life better. And I think that's one of the other reasons why the book is so successful. It's packed with real life strategies that people have used and they've been replicated to create the best versions of themselves, and it's wonderful. But Hawk, well, hang on, before I let you go, where can people find you? Is there a exact link? Should we shout out the title again? Where can people find you? What do you got coming up, and what are you excited about?
Oh, well, I'm excited about, you know, musically, I've delved
Okay.
into Afro house, Afro
Oh,
beats.
nice.
Oh yeah, and I enjoy it. So, you know, I wouldn't, it's that beat, it just, I, so if you go to YouTube and type in M Ancient, you'll find some of the music there, also
Nice.
on Spotify and whatnot. Or you can go to mancient.com, Mancient. Then you, of course, the books. LinkedIn, I'm Håkon Rian Mancient there. And well, there are so many things that excites me, George. Right, like this
Yeah.
week, and I'm going to be a part of Save the Children, the NGO, their annual gathering, their annual meeting. I'm so looking forward to that. To get to meet other people who are really fighting for a common cause. And but to me, art and writing is like, and dogs, of course. I got my beautiful Nessie, an adoptee. That is what really gets me going. But yeah, get the book, then you find a few links, and you'll also, I think it's, as you say, it connects on many levels. That's what I like about it, because if you're 15 years old and you are in need of a network, okay, then you got a 15-year-old talking about how he found his network through nerdcore music, I believe it's called. Got the and if you're like Carolyn, who's had a long life of working, and then she got somatic problems with brain injury and stuff. I mean, she used to work for the feds.
Mm.
This is one smart cookie.
Yeah.
She talks about how she has went through the pain, and she still feels hope. She is still here. She is still flying. Then you got Tanya, talking about supporting her son. Beautiful. And then you have Lani, because that and I wish I could mention all of them, but then see we're running short on time. You have Lani, who shares. She has her own stories, and they are like real rattle awake stories, but they always come with a tongue in cheek and a twist
Yeah.
that makes it so it doesn't get. This is not a book that mental health is, it's so horrible, and oh yes, and we things are going to hell and a handbasket, and it's a hopeful book. and
Yeah.
and that is the energy that has been infused in this book. And so I think that is, you can use that. I believe the site should be operational. That I set up. Where will we put up resources and links to the Rattle Awake movement, everything. It's linked to the books. Romeo Alpha 11.info. And I want to also have presentations of the various authors and playlist from Tanya's son,
Yeah.
um, to make it more. I just started on the. I saw that. Could you go back to the
Yeah.
previous comment?
Right here.
I think the framework of mental health validates and perpetuates suffering. Spot on.
Yeah.
Because you give people a diagnosis,
Right.
and you give them the solution, which often is pills. And then when the pills don't work no more, then there's something wrong with you. And if you experience that this is actually hurting me, then there's something wrong with you. It's never, is there something wrong with the system? Does it help to give a person a diagnosis? Does it help to give them an SSRI or an SNRI or an antipsychotic or whatever? We don't go into that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I I think about the model of addiction and mental health sometimes, and It seems that and I know there's a lot of good people that care about people, but it seems that the model we've been working with for so long isn't so much a model to help people solve problems. It's a model to help people manage their pain. It's like, you hate your job, you hate your life. Okay, take this pill and you can do it one more day. But instead of
Hmm.
saying why, do you hate it? Instead of
Hmm.
saying like, okay, you hate it, what are you gonna do about it? Like,
Hmm.
those are real things that are very painful, but they're very rewarding. And just
Hmm.
asking those questions, it's just that question, why? I often think of a question mark like the scythe, right? Because the questions can cut stuff down and they can cut back all the stuff,
Hmm.
all the minutia and stuff. And if you start asking questions of like, okay, I hate where I'm at right now. Okay, congratulations. You figured that part out. That's a big step saying that out loud. What's the
Hmm.
next step? What are you gonna do about it? Okay,
Hmm.
well, I'm gonna start looking for something else. While I get up and I go do this thing I hate every day, I'm gonna start looking for something else. I'm gonna get up and go for a walk every day, or I'm gonna start forcing myself to see something beautiful every day. Like, there's all these little steps we can take versus just taking a pill and numbing ourselves to the fact that we hate something.
Yeah.
It's we're there.
Yeah, and that's like in Gabo Mate's book about the
Yeah.
myth
Myth
of
of normal.
normal. That is, it's like you got to start asking yourself, if you're feeling low, is it because there is something wrong with you, or are you
Yep.
surrounded by asshats? No,
Yeah, right.
simple question.
You're right.
Is your environment
Yep.
bringing you down? And is that, and what do you want to do about it?
Yep.
It's up to you.
Yeah. It's
And we
powerful.
can, yeah.
You
And
have
you
the
got to
change.
make the changes.
Yep.
It's like if you're, say that you're in a relationship that doesn't work. Okay, make a plan. Talk with your partner. Say that,
Yeah.
okay, this is not working for me. What can we do? We can either we can go to therapy. There's a lot of things we can do. Lots of avenues to choose from. But we need to make changes. And perhaps with me, it ended up with one of the biggest losses of my life, and that was getting divorced. But when I look at it now, 5 years later, I see this was exactly what was right for my
Mm.
lovely ex-wife and for me. That was what we needed. And so you got to be willing to because we often talk about therapists can help guide you. A good therapist or a good coach can help guide you, but the therapy happens within you.
Yeah.
You are the source.
Yep.
So we can fix your life. You got to work on your own life.
Yep.
And it's just like healers. I can't, if you came to me and said I had a headache, and I said, oh, I'm going to come with my magic hands and just fix George Monty. It's not that. That's not the way it works. Because if you're not connected, then I can't work with the person.
Yeah.
If you don't have first a talk and talk about, okay, we need to figure it out where in your system is whatever issue is creating the headaches.
Yep.
And sometimes it might be I've told that to people who wanted help. I said, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. You have to go to the doctor and ask him to check your liver.
Hmm.
Because sorry, this is not the problem I can or want to work with. First you have to go and check that, and then come see me if you wish, but not before that, because we will need to work together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the bridge. That's a great way to maybe leave people thinking we have to work together. It's a great place to leave it. But we'll hang on briefly afterwards, Hawk. I still want to talk to you just briefly afterwards. But to everybody
Okay.
who participated today, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the book launch, Rattled Awake 11. It's out now. Go to Amazon, go down to the show notes. It'll be down there. So many incredible authors. Do yourself a favor, check it out. You'll love it. You'll be inspired. And maybe you'll want to write your own rattled awake piece. So if you read it, be careful because it's contagious. It'll make you want to become part of the movement, you know? So,
Yeah.
and that's all we got for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a beautiful day. And thank you so much. Aloha.
Thank you for watching. Appreciate you all.